Hey everyone, it's Desiree and I am here with Paper Rose. We are going to use our colored pencils to color that gorgeous image, and this is going to be an Easter card. So I pulled out my Happy Easter Sentiment by Paper Rose, and then we're going to use our nesting egg dies, and I'm only going to be using one. I am going to show all of the coloring. I'm going to explain how I am coloring this image, and then we'll put on some nice soft music. And here we go. Let's get started. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to stamp my image. I'm using my Strathmore Mix Media toned tanned cardstock. This is a wonderful mix media paper. It feels smooth, but it's got a nice tooth for colored pencils. The pencils that I'm going to be using today to color my image are my Prismacolors. They are my go-to medium of choice for color. I'm using my Simon Says Stamp Intense Black ink. Now, this one is drying out. I need to get a new one, but I really do like this stamp as it dries out. It's a soft black. When I use my colored pencils, I don't like to use a very harsh black, a very detailed or bright like VersaFine. I like it to be soft if I'm not using my Ink on 3 fade out ink to do no line coloring. So what I'm going to be doing, I'm only going to be using 3 colors for each flower. A white, and you can see I'm putting a lot of that down. It's kind of like the base. And I'm focusing on the tips of the flowers, the petals, and also maybe the fold overs, the pieces that fold over. For the color itself, I'm going to only be using 2. A light, which is then going to cover about approximately 3/4 of the petal, and then I'm coming in with the darkest shade. Once I have that darkest shade down, I will come over with that mid-tone, the light color, to blend that out up over the white. By putting the white down first, it will help the colors to blend. Prismacolor pencils are beautifully blendable. They are so soft. They are so creamy. You never think you'd say that about a colored pencil, but they are. There are times where I'm not putting white down. When I'm not putting white down, that's where I really want the petal to be darker. In this case, this petal here, it's facing towards the inside. The top is folding over. So I want that shade to really come down in that petal so that it'll help the other ones towards the front to stand out. I do not worry about light source. I know that's probably taboo, but I don't. Again, I like my colored pencils as my medium of choice for color. I enjoy them. So I just make sure I put my shadows. I may take a notice to say, okay, this petal, like that one in the back, is back farther, so I do want that one darker. That's funny. And just like the other one to the left there, I have a lot of deep tones going in that. I try to provide the flower to look as real as possible. But again, I just don't stress about that light source. If I do, it always comes from the right. It's just something that I always do. It just always comes in for the right. Since this is a bouquet, I'm envisioning the lights coming right onto it. But again, it's not something that I focus in. If I was doing this bouquet pure realism, then yes, then I would worry about that and put those shadows in. Again, I put down my white for the top quarter part of each of the petals. I come in with the lightest shade of the color I'm going to make this flower, and then I come in with the darkest. You can see in this case, I'm going over the white. So I don't want the white tips like I have on my purple flower, but rather a lighter pink. For this darker shade, I'm flicking it. I'm not actually coloring, I'm just flicking in those shadows into these petals. It's almost like the veins of the petals that are coming out, but you can see it still does provide that shading effect. This center portion here, I want that to be the full pink, no white, and then I come in with that darker color. And I did the same thing for the small ones. Now when I started this, I was starting flower to flower, finishing all the one flowers, but of course this purple one just keeps popping up. So you'll see me color it multiple times, but I'm going to do the same thing. I'm adding the white to the tips. I'm going to add the lighter color and then the darkest color to come in. So right now I'm going to put on some music so that you can sit back and enjoy. I'll talk to you when we're done. Okay, I just wanted to pop back in here and show that I'm using 3 colors for the leaves. I'm using white, a mid-tone green, and a deep indigo blue. You can see by just using the white and that green, I get this sage kind of look because it's based on the color of green that I chose. But it's light, but you can still tell that they are leaves. For the larger leaves, the more rounded leaves, I am using that mid-tone green, and then I'm coming in with the indigo blue. When it comes to shades, when it comes to adding in that depth, to give it almost, life for your image, don't be afraid of blacks, grays, deepest browns, those dark blues, deep purples, reds. They can be mixed matched. I love using indigo blue for the deepest shade of my leaves, for the most part. For reds, I love to use purple or brown. You don't always have to use like colors for your shadows. If I really want a deep shadow to appear, I'll go so far as to use black. Remember, when you're working with colored pencils, you don't want to press hard. You want to put your color down lightly so that you can keep adding your layers. When you're going to that darkest of dark, black, you're really just blending that over your other colors, or you're adding a line to the base. So I hope those little pointers helped in your coloring. No matter what that medium is, that whole concept can be used for any medium that you like. And that is what our panel looks like. What we're going to do now is we're going to cut into this panel. I know you're all going to say, no, don't do that. But yes, we must. I did the same thing when I cut into it. I'm like, okay, do I really want to do this? Absolutely. So we're going to grab the nesting egg-shaped dies there, and I'm going to use the middle one in the set, so the third from the smallest, and I'm going to put that in the area that I want it, and I want that to be to the left because I knew I wanted to put my sentiment to the right. I'm going to die cut this out, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this panel that we just cut out, and I'm going to put this on a pale pink cardstock. This is the same pink that I used in my sentiment. Whenever I'm making cards, I like to use, like if I have a black mat, the background of my sentiment will be black. If I'm using, whatever color mat that I'm using, I like to stick with that for my sentiment. Again, it pulls all of those colors in. I chose this pink because it was very close to the pink of the one flower that I colored. I'm going to take this panel, now that we've die cut it, and I'm going to put this down onto my standard A2 size card base, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and this is going to be a side folding landscape card. I'm now going to work on the sentiment. I've cut 3 of the clouds for the sentiment, and then I have only 1 layer of the Happy Easter, and I'm going to adhere that using my liquid adhesive. I thought maybe I could keep it in there and then press it down. No, it didn't work. So we're just going to add our sentiment to the top. It is a 2-part, which is great because you could separate it if you want. You could just use the top sentiment itself and put it in 2 different places. And then we're going to place down the Easter. And again, that's going to go onto the lower right-hand corner. And I'm really going to put it down as far as I can, as long as I have some brown going around it, or my mixed media paper that I colored on. Once that's set, I'm going to grab my double-sided foam squares, and we're going to set this in the same spot where we die cut. So we're going to have this pop up with this little tiny frame going around it to help the eye go right there. Now that we have that in place, I pulled out some pearls, and we're going to put that in the center of just some of the flowers, not the purple ones. And we're going to put one down onto the sentiment. And that is our project for today. As always, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I gave you some ideas and some tips when it comes to using colored pencils. Now, if you're not a fan of colored pencils, you can use any color or medium that makes you happy. As always, the products that I used will be listed down below, and I do hope you hit that subscribe button here so that you can see all of the wonderful other designs that are created here on the channel. Enjoy the art that you create. Have fun with it. Don't get discouraged and keep going. But most of all, remember what is always most important to me. Always be creative, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Till then.